Hey, it's Gavin Seim. Welcome to the X-Style Show. Today, I've got this really, kind of interesting video. Here's what was happening today. I was over on James Freeman's channel. All right, I'm looking at Freeman's video over here, and Freeman's talking about this story that started going around on Facebook where the psychotic police show up and they tase this band member. This is the Birmingham, Alabama Police Department. Now, it's important. You can look this up and you can leave comments for them. This is a very good thing. I think we underestimate a lot of times the value of leaving the phone number of these departments, of leaving their Facebook pages. They need to feel the detestation of society for the crimes that they commit against people. And since these are public offices, a lot of times we feel powerless. And I'm not saying like lose control, you got to be smarter than them, right? But those Google reviews, those Facebook comments, those matter because these people need to feel like when they go out in society, they need to feel ashamed. They need to feel like they need to kind of hide their face at the grocery store. That's always how I felt like these cops in my town, in Grant County, that are abusing people. These guys strut around everywhere like they're the importance of society, and they're actually the cockroaches of society. So in this incident at this game, these police are here, right? And do I have sound? Hang on. I'm not even gonna edit this. I'm not gonna cut this or anything like that. We're just gonna kind of roll with this here, okay? So that's right, there's a delayed sound here. So the band is playing, the game has ended. The two bands are playing, which is normal, right? This was like the normal agreed upon. This is the visiting band. And these cops come up, they're in a hurry to get people to leave. And so for public safety, they come up and they're telling the band people they have to stop in the middle of their song. Now, first of all, we always have this idea of like police should be at schools protecting our kids. Police don't freaking protect your kids. Police are psychopaths there to protect their ego. So stop relying on police to defend your kids, your community, your car, your property, etc. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it hasn't for a long time. In concept, having a peace officer in your community should work, but when your police are entirely focused on extortion, ego, violence, and theft, you're not gonna have safety. Right, so these cops, right, the band director, here's this band director, he's telling the cops, get out of my face, leave me alone, and his band is in the middle of playing, right? And the cops want him to shut down the band so that people leave the field, so I guess they can turn the lights off. I don't know, these assholes never know what they want other than just to flex, right? Get out my face, that's okay, I got my troops coming, I got my troops coming, they're gonna sweep their ass. I got my troops coming. They're going to sweep their asses out. This is how the cops that work at the Birmingham schools, this is how they talk to the instructors. And what I want to know is where's the freaking administration of this school tolerating this crap, right? It was agreed on that these bands would play a few songs after the game as people cycled out, and they're allowing these psychopaths on school grounds to terrorize people. And here's what happened. You know where this is going. You know where this is going. He lets the song finish. And they're turning off the lights, right? It's all about public safety, but we're gonna turn off the lights in the middle of this field so it's pitch black when we're trying to get people out of here. This is the kind of class of people that these cops and the school administrators that tolerate them are. It's really important to understand that because it's time to start shaming these people in our society. And so I'm just gonna go through really briefly because I'm going somewhere with today's thought. Because actually, if you want to know this whole story, go watch James' video. Despite his huge beard and the fact that James, I can see your green screen. No, despite that, this is a really good video, and I'll refer you over to this. So I'm giving you kind of the cliff notes on the psychopathic Birmingham police, which yes, I've gone and left some videos, but I'm leading into another video. Right, so the sergeant is over here screaming. They can't stand it that he's finishing a song. So they finish, but that's not enough, right? They stop, they're done, they're going. That's not enough for these cops because they were disrespected. Contempt of cop. And so they go through and they attack this guy, they arrest him, they tase him, they work him over, right? And then, of course, they charge him with a public disturbance, resisting, striking an officer. I don't remember, like 3 charges they got this guy charged with. Always the same thing, right? You can always rely on, if you sit in a jail cell in your county jail, whether it's Grant County Jail or Birmingham Jail, you can always rely that what people are coming in to the tank for. What they're being charged for is the crimes that the police, I'm looking at you, Grant County Sheriff, I'm looking at you, Pat Kennedy, I'm looking at you, Birmingham Police Department, I'm looking at you, Oregon State Patrol, I'm looking at all you Blue ISIS. And so there's now a scandal of this, right? Now, if go over and check out James' video if you want more on this particular story, because James approaches this with his typical free snark, as I call it, where he just kind of really tells the story, but with that classic James Freeman snark. Now, what I want to lead into is we have a society, right? All these people did nothing. And I know, because they're afraid, right? All these people are standing around, they're watching these cops doing this. There was people angry, there was people shouting. There might have even been a couple, one or two school administrators like the other band member. It's a little hard to follow. That tried to intervene, right? But these are real peacemakers, right? Who's disturbing the peace? These psychotic uniforms that show up, all these kids are trying to play band and start electrocuting people, turning off lights and attacking people? Or the dude directing his band practice? This is insane. And the fact that we tolerate this as a society, the fact that police are not afraid to be rushed by the entire crowd, tied up and thrown in the corner until they're ready to be dealt with. That's how they should be handled. These are criminals, right? We always got to treat even the criminals with moderation. We can never be the lynch mob. But that doesn't mean that people can't come in and stop these guys, right? When you got a crowd here, these police should be terrified to do this stuff. Now, what I'm getting at here is actually that we've let government's fear of the people go. And we've let them get so big and so powerful. And in the US, I don't know how to fix that at this point until we get to a point where the world just collapses and these agencies no longer exist because it's so hard to hold them accountable. Now, in Mexico, it's interesting because there's still a lot of power to hold these people accountable. Not that there's not a lot of corruption. I want to show you a video because this is a video from a mayor in Tamaulipan, Mexico State, right? So Tamaulipan is here. Here's Tamaulipan. Let me switch you over. Here's Tamaulipan. Tamaulipan is down here in Mexico State. Okay, so here's Tamaulipan. Here is Mexico City. So it's a few hours from Mexico City. And then if you look at where I'm at, I'm kind of up in here, another few hours, the other side, the north of Mexico City. So just to give you kind of a rough idea, this is kind of still right in the centro area of Mexico. Now, the mayor of this town, Norma Leon, all right, the mayor of this town who ran on non-corruption, right? And I get politicians, we know how politicians work. But remember when I was running for Congress, my slogan was no more politicians? And I was promoting the idea that your congressman, your state representative, these people shouldn't be standing up there in suits making speeches. These people should be out on the streets being activists for you. That's what a representative does. So representatives weren't supposed to be politicians. I know that that's naturally how it goes. A representative is supposed to what? Represent you, fight for you. Let's come back to this municipal president, which is essentially the county mayor. Not so much a town mayor, it's more like a county commissioner, but it's essentially the mayor, right? Now, Norma Leon, she comes in, and don't worry, I'm going to translate here as we go through this.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Hoy es martes,
this is the mayor.
12 de septiembre, y desde luego...
Now, I'm going to mute this and then turn it on sometimes so I can kind of translate and explain. Norma goes out, and she's saying, hey, people keep reporting this corruption, and she goes out and puts on a disguise. This is not what she actually looks like. What she actually looks like is this lady here. So she puts out on a disguise, and she goes out in a vehicle that's out of state, doesn't have a driver's license, and doesn't have plates, right? And you can see her, she's hiding in the back of the van. We don't really worry too much about seatbelts and stuff like that. The cop stops the guy. She's hiding in the back. They don't know she's in the back. And he's saying, why are you stopping me? What's going on? I left my license and my registration in the hotel. And so he's going around with this guy for his infractions. And the guy's not really disputing the infractions. And then he comes in and he says, hey, I want money. And she's listening in the back, right? Looks like he's asking for like $6,000 at first, from what I'm understanding. He says, get out, come here. Now he's telling the mayor, who's hiding in the back of the van. First he says 68, because it represents 40 days of fine or something. Now he says he's asking for 3,000. Okay? 3,000 pesos is like 170 bucks. So this is a lot in Mexican terms because it's a van. They're always going to start high, right? Usually if you actually pay a bribe, you don't pay near that much. You extort them and you end up giving them 20 or 30 bucks. I've never actually paid a bribe in this manner. I always just stand up for myself. But it is sometimes a way to get out of situations from their corruption. Whereas in the US, they just charge you with some crap and take you to jail and cost you way more money, okay? But the corruption isn't near as organized, which is both bad and it's also more accessible. So at this point, the mayor hops out of the van, right? She hops out of the van.
¿Qué pasó, oficial?
Hey, what's happening, officer?
¿Por qué están deteniendo?
Why are you holding us here? Who's holding you?
Pero pues qué, yo...
What's going on? You can see the van has no plaques.
¿Quién?
He's saying, hey, let's go. They're trying to ignore her, right?
Pero ¿por qué no nos quiere contestar?
Why aren't you answering me? Why aren't you answering the question?
¿Y eso qué tiene que ver? Yo nada más quiero saber qué está pasando.
I want to know what's going on. He's saying we're the municipal police, and he's explaining, hey, you didn't have plates, you didn't have license. And she's saying, hey, I just heard you're asking for a bribe. I'm inside.
Esas cosas no se hacen,
this is not okay. This is not okay, officer.
Identifíquese.
Identify yourself. Identify yourself. I identify myself with him. ¿Cómo se llama? What's your name?
Ah, no.
I don't have to give you a name. No, really? It's actually federal law. I believe it's Security Law 243. Don't quote me on that. I keep a copy of it. I believe it's Security Law 233 of the national laws of Mexico that these public officials do have to identify. They almost never do. They completely violate the law. So there's one violation of the law.
No se quiere identificar.
You don't want to identify? You don't want to, they show these little plaques, right? But then they try and hide and they kind of flip them around. What's your name? What's your name? We came to do our jobs, nothing more. I'm just informing
Usted
you.
es tránsito.
Are you transit police?
Él es tránsito.
Is he transit?
Mira.
Look,
Mira,
come here,
amigo,
come here,
ven.
friend. Come here, friend.
Lo que tú estás haciendo
What you're doing,
no se le hace a la ciudadanía.
this is not acceptable to the people.
Lo que tú estás
What you're
haciendo
doing,
no se le hace a la ciudadanía.
We're not going for
¿Y
that.
sabes qué?
You know what?
¿Y sabes qué? Estás pidiendo
You know what?
dinero.
You're asking for a bribe.
Yo te escuché perfecto cuando estaba allá
I heard you
dentro de la
perfectly
camioneta.
when I was inside. I heard you
Soy
perfectly.
Norma Layón
I'm Norma
y
Leon.
los acabo de atorar.
I'm not sure what
Tuve que
atorar
hacer
means.
todo este teatro
I had to
para
do-
saber que la ciudadanía
I had to do all this theater, meaning dressing up, so I could see what the people of the town, what the
tiene
citizens
toda la razón.
were right, and they were
Nosotros somos
completely
un
right.
gobierno de la cuarta transformación.
Right? We're going to be a government of change. Now, do you believe that this change, once somebody gets into power, now this lady is obviously in the news, she's going to get popular. You know how it works with politicians. Then we move them up. But at this point, here's a quote politician not being a politician. This is the kind of thing I ran on when I was running for Congress. But she's actually the official, right? And she's actually doing it. And that's what I like to see. So props to Norma. We need to see more of that all over the world. Because if your representative isn't doing activism, being a representative isn't sitting in a congressional house in the state, in the Senate. It's not. It's not sitting in the county. Being a representative is getting your hands dirty. It's fighting for the people. And if your representative isn't doing that, they're not a representative. They're just another cockroach politician. Okay?
A donde a la gente no se le pide dinero.
We're going to be a place where
Donde estamos
bribes
para
aren't asked
cuidar
for,
los intereses de todos y todas.
And so now
los
she's working him
ciudadanos.
over. Now he's realizing that,
Porque
that
nuestro
he's in
gobierno
trouble.
se rige en no mentir, no robar y no traicionar.
We're trying to change this into a government of no lies, no theft, and no betrayal.
He tenido muchísimas quejas.
We have many
Muchísimas
complaints.
quejas.
Many.
Y sí sabes quién soy yo, ¿verdad?
You know who it is. Oh, now he knows.
Identifícate,
Yes,
dame
señora.
tu nombre.
Give me your name. Now he cooperates, right? Now he knows. Now he
¿Quién
knows
es
he's
tu
in a
jefe
problem.
directo?
Who's your direct jefe?
Quítate el cubrebocas.
Take off your mask. Now this is another thing. This is another thing I want to see more. and I'm so sick of seeing this in Mexico from soldiers. Soldiers on the street is a big problem here in Mexico. All these army worshipers, same thing we have in the States. Soldiers on your street, so armed soldiers marching on your street is always a sign of fascism and dictatorship. It's never a sign of freedom. I don't care what country you're in. That's North Korea crap. And we just had Mexico Independence Day down here, and so they had their parades and everything with these soldiers marching with all their tanks. And I'm like, what is, and all these people saying, oh, like, we're so proud of Mexico. It's nothing to be proud of. Be proud of freedom. Be proud of defending beautiful Mexico. It's nothing to be proud of, amigos mexicanos. No hay orgullo, amigos, en tener la militar armado en tu calles. Eso es un señal de corrupción, de inseguridad, de un dictador, de fascismo. Siempre, en toda la historia, soldados han dado en tus calles como oficiales, como policía. No se vale. Siempre es un señal de la ignorancia y de la inseguridad. Always. It's always a sign of fascism and insecurity. But I just wanted to draw your attention to this video, right?
¿Él te da instrucciones para hacer esto?
Did your boss tell you to do this? No, no.
¿Quién más tiene instrucciones para hacer este tipo de atraco?
Who does this, right? Who give you these instructions to do these kind of things? Nobody,
¿Sí sabes
nobody
que
else.
esto es delinquir?
Do you know that this is a crime?
¿Sabes que
This
esto
is
es
corruption.
corrupción?
All right, it's getting uncomfortable now. But do you think they would respond the same if it was one of us? But this is why I call attention. This is what we all should be doing. And the thing is, notice how even before he knew who she was lecturing him, and these police were kind of trying to run away. Now, you've seen my videos. If you've watched my videos, you know police ran from me lots of times. But I had to practice at that. I had to always kind of maintain this strong confidence and really get in their face, but not too close in their face that they would shoot me. And it was always kind of this tightrope walk. It is here too. Don't mistake, when I've done activism here, you can see videos, and I've stood up to cops here as well, because I know the Constitution of Mexico, I know the Constitution of the United States, but more importantly, I know that constitutions don't give us rights. We're born with those rights. They're natural. And we have to start defending them. Now, so you can all do this in little ways, but if you got someone running for mayor, running for Congress, this is the kind of stuff. What are you doing? Are you out in the streets fighting with the cops? Can you imagine seeing a mayor in the US out trying to expose the police of their own city and show how corrupt they were to make an example of them? No, they would have a meeting. Oh, we've heard some reports. We're doing an investigation. We're investigating ourselves, and then they find out that it's okay. There's nothing wrong, right? Or we've given a written reprimand, like they did to the officer that accosted me in Boise, Idaho, one of my first famous videos. And so they're here now. This
Gobernamos
woman,
en la cuarta transformación.
she's in the mayor.
Nos hemos dedicado más de 5 años
Right? She's
a
saying we've
cuidar a
been
los
working hard
ciudadanos,
to try
ayudar a los
and
pobres.
help the poor, to try and help
Y
the
ustedes
citizens.
piden
And you're
dinero
out here
como si la
extorting
gente no
people.
trabajara para llevar dinero a sus casas.
These people are trying to take money home
A
and
todos
work.
los que traen placas de otro lugar.
Everybody
Y eso-
that has plates from other cities, you're
Eso
screwing
no
over.
se hace.
This is not
Y
acceptable.
eso no se hace.
Pidan el apoyo
En mi
político.
gobierno
In this
no lo
this
voy a volver a
administration,
permitir.
this is not going to be tolerated.
¿Quién está arriba de tu jefe? ¿Quién es el otro jefe que tienen ustedes?
Who's your jefes? She's got a wig. Notice how she's messing with the wig.
¿No? ¿Se mandan solos?
There's no jefe in charge of this. We're doing it ourselves.
¿Tu jefe inmediato quién es?
Now, you notice what's happening here as well, that first of all, even before they knew she was the mayor, they thought she was just a normal person that they could screw over. The level of aggression is way lower. You can't argue with the cops. You get out of your car, you face off with them. But still, if there's enough of them, right? I've been out with people, and I've shown you guys some of the videos where we've called out the cops and got on their case, and they invented stuff and beat up my friend and took him to jail. Now, we had him out a few hours later, but we had to pay like I want to say $150 to get him out. And it was done. It's not like there was charges after, even though he was wrestling with the cops and stuff like that. Shout out Mauricio. But I just thought, wow, let's look at the contrast where we have all these schools in the US teaching our kids to submit. And these psychotic cops are coming in, like these psychopaths in the Birmingham Police Department. There it is right there, so you can go leave a comment for these lovelies. You can find them on Google as well. They can't take a Google review down, by the way. Hint, hint. get that word out there. But why? These cops show up in a crowd, and I see way too much of this in Mexico. Don't get me wrong. I see way too much tolerance, and people just kind of stand on the sidelines. Oh, we don't want to get involved. We don't want to get in trouble. This is how you represent. This is what activists are doing down here. Now, one thing that I struggle with a little bit, notice how calm they are when they do activism. Even the police aren't freaking out because they're not nearly as roided up and psychopaths. They're corrupt, but it's a different kind of corruption. So I'm trying to learn to really be calm. You got to understand that gringos, and I think Europeans in general, the way we talk, we're more aggressive, especially when we're angry. They hear us, talking to our mom and just talking about the news, and they think we're angry. So we have a much more aggressive kind of verbal manner. And Mexico is still very much in a mode of you have to be polite in public, you have to be respectful, you can't use vulgarities in public because it's a more old school kind of culture. So that's something you got to keep in mind. Not that you don't have a right to do it, but you're going to lose people fast, and they'll just screw you over more. And so even though I've never been a vulgar activist, if I get into it with police here, it's a language barrier already, right? So there's already a lack of, my Spanish is pretty good now, but there's already a little bit of lack of communication and connection there. So you combine that with the fact that when I get upset, it's not that I lose control, but my manner that I learned as an activist in the States is you kind of got to push pretty hard. You got to kind of build this buffer out in front of yourself with a little bit of aggression, not violent aggression, but really confident verbal aggression to kind of keep them at bay was kind of always a tactic I used. But that's a fine line. And it's even more of a fine line here because it's more of a polite society. But I'm sick of polite societies, and this needs to change in Mexico. Not that we need to be rude to each other, but the idea that because a corrupt official, because we're polite, therefore we're nice people. If someone's screwing you over, they're a criminal. If your police are robbing you on the street, whether it's asking for a bribe or whether it's Birmingham police scumbag cockroaches tasing a guy and hauling him off to jail on trumped up charges because his band played, it doesn't matter. It's the same kind of scumbaggery, and we've got to start treating these criminals with the shame that they deserve. So they are ashamed. And this is something we can do anywhere, right? You got to decide when to stand up. You should always film whenever you encounter police. But we need to make them ashamed to be seen in their community. Because these people and the people who are defending them, if we start doing that, they're bootlickers, they'll start shutting up. Because the bootlickers are cowards to the umpteenth degree. That's why they're bootlicking, because they want to believe that everything's okay. They're lazy and they're cowards. And so when you start standing up, if you get a voice of the people moving against these corrupt police in your town, in your county, and so when they march around in their uniform, it's actually dude, get out of here. We don't need you here, right? If you treat them like a cockroach so that they feel like the cockroach there, maybe they'll want to elevate themselves and stop being a cockroach. Some of them might come out of it, right? You might be able to save some of them from that, but you'll also silence these bootlickers. You probably won't silence them in the comments on Facebook because I swear half of these comments worshiping military, police, government, it's all the same stuff, right? They must be like bots because there's so much adoration even when they're committing blatant crimes that it makes no sense, the level of adoration. But let's focus on our communities, defending our neighbors, pulling out those cameras and standing up. And if you got politicians running, I don't care if they're in the US or if they're in Mexico, let's look for people, right? 10 years from now, Norma might not be anything like this and she might just be playing politician. I don't know this woman, but right now she's out representing her community because the community's saying, hey, this is corruption. She's out exposing her own police force in her own municipality and exposing their corruption. Because it's not quite the same as she's the mayor and she can just fire all the police like a lot of times you might think it in the States. The rules are a little more different. The organization is different. So she's just going out and straight up being the activist and exposing them. Hoo-yah. That's the kind of thing you need to see. That's representation. Remember it wherever you are. All right, guys, I just wanted to kind of talk about this and contrast these two stories. We'll see you next time. Peace.